Well, hello, ladies. Welcome to another episode of the Violet Underground. This is my friend Dalila, who is going to join me today. I want you to introduce yourself because you've got so many things going on. It'll be easier for you to just tell everyone who you are and what you're doing.
Okay, my name is Dalila Rajah. I created and co-produced a show called Cherrybomb. It is the first ever lesbian relationship talk show. We get down and dirty with all the nitty-gritty and some wine. It's a lot of fun. We air every Friday on AfterEllen.com, and then they all stay up. So if you want to see, we're starting season 2 now. If you want to see season 1, you can kind of go through the last episodes and come play with us. We have a lot of fun. And Jill is going to be with us.
Yes,
on an upcoming episode. So
we're swapping guest spots on our vlogs. Cherrybomb did an episode on bisexuality. I wanted to do an episode on bisexuality, and I watched theirs, and I wanted to have Dalila on the show for a different topic, which I still might down the road. But I find this topic to be, you know, another topic in the lesbian community that just people get really amped up about, and understandably. I mean, it's an interesting, for me, it's a really interesting topic. It's affected almost every single woman in our community, whether it's because you identified as bisexual or you dated a bisexual. But before we even start this discussion, I want you girls to write in, let us know what you think of what we're talking about, add your comments and your questions, because this is something that every time I talk to another person, I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So please comment, let us know what you're, thinking. Let us know what you're thinking. Okay, so first I wanted to talk about just what does bisexual mean to you? Like, because it means something different for everybody.
It does. I would say it's fluctuated a little bit. It used to be for me that it was literally a very even balance. Like, you were equally attracted to, available to a relationship, and it's emotionally and all of those things to both men and women. And so I had a real kind of, at one point in my life, a rigid thing about the idea that it had to be perfectly balanced in the middle. So when I was younger, I felt like, bisexuality doesn't really exist because everybody tips a little bit in one direction or the other. So nobody could be completely balanced. And then I was in a polyamorous relationship where I was in love with 2 people, and one of them was a boy and one of them was a girl, and I was poised in the middle, and I didn't love one more than the other, and I didn't have an affinity to one more than the other, and I was like, oh, bisexuality, by my own definition, can't exist, and I'm one of them. So I went through like a whole thing. I was like, okay, and I identified as bi. I'm one of those people that feels like labels can be useful just in communicating, like quickly communicating things, but that I feel like by my own definitions, if I change or I fluctuate or I grow or I evolve or whatever you want to call it, then my title would change. Right. So when I started realizing, after I was going through my divorce and that sort of thing, because I was married to the man I was in a polyamorous relationship with, that I actually, once I was at a place of neutral, I leaned more towards women. I was like, oh, then I'm a lesbian. But I know I'm like in the minority. I think most people feel like if you're open to both in any way, then you're bi. Where I'm like, well, it's kind of like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know about that. Like, if you lined up 10 people you're interested in, and 8 or 9 of them would be women, and 1 of them would be a boy, I don't know if I call you a bisexual.
Yeah, I don't see I have a definition of bisexual that is, and you mentioned it, emotional, because I find just about anybody could have sex with just about anybody else if you're open to it and get off. So to me, that doesn't make you bisexual just because you sleep with people of both genders. I think it's the emotional component that makes you bisexual. So by that definition, I honestly haven't met that many people who I think are bisexual, who are emotionally attracted and available to both men and women. So, and not to say, I'm in no way saying that there isn't anything such as bisexuality. I'm saying that my definition of bisexuality is an emotional component. And I found that it doesn't seem like a lot of people have both of those. Like, they're sexually attracted to men, but they're emotionally attracted to women, or the opposite. And to me, it's an interesting thing. I know at this point in my life, I can honestly say I only know one person, who describes herself as bisexual, and she really seems kind of how you said, balanced. Like, she dates both men and women equally, and she seems equally attracted sexually and emotionally to men and women. most of the bisexuals I know from my 20s have either gone one way or the other. That just seems to happen.
Do you think, but I wonder how much of that is that once you get beyond your 20s, you're looking to settle down with somebody, and so you just happen to get in a relationship, and that's the relationship you stick with. And that, I know people have this idea that bisexuality has to equal promiscuity, which I know does
Right.
not have to be the case.
No.
So if you then get into like the age where people start to, which is often like in your late 20s, early 30s, people start looking for who they want to marry, they start to settle down into a relationship that they think is going to be more long term. And what if just the person that happens to be there, just, you're spinning roulette for, bisexuals
Right.
as far as like where your emotional drawingness was. And if the ball happened to fall on boy,
Right.
and that's just who you were in love with when you were ready to make that commitment, and they were a spiritual match for you, an emotional match for you, all of those things, so you may end up married with a boy.
Right.
But it's because that was when you were ready to settle down, and that's the person that you were dating that you were in love with at the time that you were ready to do all
But
those
then
things.
now, aren't you, if you're married, aren't you now straight?
I don't think you're straight. I think that just like there's lesbians out there who were married to 50 years to boys, and they were still dykes to me. You know what I mean?
I get that. I get what you're saying, but like the thing that I don't remember if it was like, what in the hell is that sound? Is that a whistle? I don't know. We're outside, so you'll just have to deal with the ambient noise here. I don't remember whether it was 6 Feet Under or Brothers and Sisters, but it was one of these shows where someone was saying, "Oh, isn't he bisexual?" And I'm pretty sure it was 6 Feet Under, and the gay brothers' comment was, "Yeah, and how many 80-year-old bisexuals do you know?" Like, eventually you make people tend to go in one way or another. Truly, how many 80-year-old bisexual people do you know? That's just a question. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying...
It depends on how you define it. Like, if bisexuality is what you're drawn to or what you're capable of, but you've chosen to settle in a monogamous relationship that you've been in for 30 years, and you're 80, well, or you're 80, but 50 years, however long you've been in it, then you just were in that relationship. It doesn't make you any less. It just means you love that person. It doesn't just like, I don't know, like, I think the capability in a human being to be drawn to something doesn't go away. You just may choose to make a commitment to one person.
Right, but then if you're living your entire life in a monogamous relationship, doesn't that then make you either straight or gay? Like, you are living, yes, I don't know. I just, like, when people, I've met people who are in a relationship and they once, at one point, identified as bisexual. Now they have been with a woman or a man for, let's say, 10 years, monogamously, and they still say, I'm bisexual. And I'm like, well, but the only person you're having sex with is that person.
Because for them, it's not about the sex or the emotion. It's what they're capable of, like what it is that they identify as. Like, I think that there's so many more things to your sexuality than just who you sleep with or who you fall in love with. Like, it enters the dynamics of other parts of your life and the way you relate to things.
Living, if you're bisexual, there is such a massive difference. Once you're in a lesbian relationship, you are in the community. If you're bi and you're with a man,
moment of silence.
Yes.
In the community.
Yes. Good and bad. But your whole life is the life of a woman dating a man is very different from the life of a woman dating a woman. And like and the bisexual woman either dips or doesn't dip her foot into both worlds. And it's because it's a totally different. I hate the word lifestyle. It's a totally different life to be with a man as it is to be with a woman. And it's like, let's say you're in a lesbian relationship for a long time, and then you decide that this guy you meet, you want to date him. You're pretty much going to lose that lesbian community.